Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us again today. And after 2 months of patient waiting, we're finally going to start talking about decision making. I announced we'd start doing that at the beginning of the year back in December, but then I just got onto some of these other subjects that I wanted to pursue that I thought were important. And based on some of the initial numbers, that was a wise decision, especially the two about things to leave behind in 2020 as we go into 2021 as we go into 2022, and then things to add in 2022. Those leave behind and add episodes have been pretty popular. So I think it was the right thing to do. And then talking about some of the other things I talked about, including even last week, talking about fasting, something I haven't talked about before and been practicing for a long time in my own life. And I thought it was probably a good time to do an episode on that. So I hope that these one-off episodes, as I call them, when I'm not staying with a theme, but just hitting different things, I hope that they've been beneficial to you and you have enjoyed them. But I do want to be a man of my word, and I said we were going to get into talking about decisions and decision making, and I want to do that. I just really can't really wait to talk about it. But lots to talk about, and I mean lots. I mean, we're going to start by talking about making wise decisions, but we're going to get into decision-making styles and decision-making questions, which I think you're really going to enjoy those. I think you're going to find them to be very, very, very helpful. And you know, we're just going to hit on a lot of different things that have to do. One of my favorites, decision danger zones. So we're going to decision-making assistance. So we're going to spend some time here talking about decision-making, but I really think it's going to be helpful to you. Now, since my new book came out a little over a month ago, we probably, I'm assuming, are gaining new listeners, maybe people who've not heard about the podcast before, or hadn't heard about me, or knew about me but didn't know I did a podcast, whatever it might be. So I do want to welcome everybody that's new. I also want to say we always appreciate anytime you can give us a nice 5-star rating or write a review about the podcast. That's really helpful. Just like with my book, it's so interesting to see how people want to read reviews and know what other people think about what they're reading or listening to. So if you can do that, I'd appreciate it. And I do want to just put a plug in for my book. Again, just excited about it. Some big things on the horizon for the book. I can't wait to be able to announce. But again, the book is called This is Living, Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faith. And a couple episodes ago, I did something about the 5 minutes a day and the difference it can make in your life, just a daily practice. And the book can be used as part of that about 2.5 and 3 minutes of the 5 is reading a daily devotion, meditation, whatever you want to call it. And so I just really encourage you can get it on Amazon, easy and fast. And they actually have marked it down, so it's at the lowest price since it came out. I know that isn't that long ago, but it was going for full price, which was $17.99. Now it's down to like $14 and something. So you can get it for under $15. Hardcover book. That's a pretty good deal. So I encourage you to pick up the book, and it's 100 readings that you can do over 100 days. It will make a huge impact on your life. It will just give you much greater inspiration. It will motivate. It will encourage you. It will challenge you. It will do all those things. And so I think you can just really benefit from it. And so I hope that you will pick it up. This is Living Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faith. Came out in January, on January the 5th. Okay, so also just, again, for folks that are new, you might not know, I also do a program called Daily Devotions with Rick McDaniel, or Pastor Rick McDaniel, on the Pray app or pray.com. So you can listen every day at 2:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Pacific, or you can go and listen on demand. You can grab episodes, and there are a lot of episodes. There's probably, close to 100. Close to 100 that you could listen to, so that'd keep you busy for a while. So again, they're just 2.5, 3 minutes is all it is. So it's not like you have to listen for 30 minutes like this podcast, or and it doesn't mean you have to, devour them in a short period of time. In fact, it's best if you just listen one a day, similar to the written devotions. So that's something else that you can take advantage of and then finally, I would just say rickmcdaniel.com. If you want to know articles that I've written, books that I've written, where I'm speaking, what I'm speaking about, my YouTube channel of messages, which just got some more added to it. It's all there, rickmcdaniel.com. That's by far the best place to go to get everything that you need. All right, let's get going here. So I'm going to spend the next probably 5 episodes, and of course we can always get interrupted, and that's possible where something will happen and I'll want to speak about it or address it. But short of that, we're going to spend the next 5 episodes talking about decision making, this super important subject. Because listen, the key to living your best life is deciding better. Living better is about deciding better. Well, there's something to just ponder. Living better is about deciding better. So making wise decisions, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And then again, we'll get into decision-making styles, decision-making assistance, decision-making questions that you can ask yourself, decision danger zones, things you need to watch out for in the coming weeks. But we'll start today with making wise decisions. The decisions we make the life that we end up living. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. It's just, it's all about decision making. It's so huge. And so why would we not want to take time to just really ponder that? We make our decisions, and then our decisions make us. Man, I'm firing off the quotables here today. It's the 3rd one, I think. We make our decisions and our decisions make us. Yes, that's absolutely positively true. Living better is about deciding better. So really, you've got to make good decisions. It's just absolutely crucial. And have there been bad decisions throughout history? Yeah, there's been just a few. How about just a fun little jaunt through recent history? Really, we don't have to go far back, but let's talk about 1979. Bill Gates went to Ross Perot and offered to sell him his young fledgling company called Microsoft. The story is interesting because there's a real variation amongst what the price really was. Some say it was as low as $6 million. Some say it was as high as $60 million. Either way, Ross Perot would have made a great decision if he had bought Microsoft. He would have made multiple millions of dollars if he had chosen to do that. And obviously he was a wise businessman in many ways, made a lot of money, but he missed on that one. And of course, Bill Gates was fortunate that his bad decision, the idea of selling his company, he decided that, changed his mind on that one, fortunately for him. Let's go back even farther. So there's this guy, Sam Phillips. He owns a small recording studio in Memphis, Tennessee, and he signs a young man, and his name was Elvis Presley. RCA Records offered to buy his studio and everyone that he had under contract for $35,000. Now, this is a while ago now. Seemed like a lot of money, so he did. He made the decision to sell and ended up forfeiting millions of dollars in royalties from billions of records that Elvis Presley sold over the years. I mean, Elvis Presley, the King. I mean, that was his nickname, the King. I mean, wow. How many people have the nickname the King, Not many. LeBron James in more present times, King James, because King James Bible and King James in England and all that, who was the one who caused the King James Bible version to be created. But there aren't many that get to be called the king. How about Munich Technical Institute? There was a young aspiring student, and he wanted to come to study. But they determined that he showed no real promise as a scientist. Want to guess what his name was? Albert Einstein. Turned out to be a pretty good scientist. Wow. I mean, bad decision. Munich Technical Institute, the guy who came up with the theory of relativity. I mean, wow, unbelievable. How about New Coke? Remember that? Yeah, New Coke. We've got the most popular best-selling soft drink of all time, Coke, and then we decide we're going to change it to New Coke, which was a total failure, and went back to classic Coke, and New Coke doesn't even exist anymore. And we could have a lot more fun. Like, how about leisure suits? You ever seen one of those? If you haven't, look it up on the internet so you can see what that looks like. Or how about the car company AMC made a car called the Pacer? And if you think that's about the most god-awful, ugly thing you've ever seen, try looking at the Gremlin. I mean, wow. Well, we could go on. And unfortunately and painfully, we could go on in our own lives, couldn't we? About bad decisions that we've made that we wish we hadn't made, but we did make. And so we've got to make wise decisions. Why? Well, decisions determine your life. I mean, that's it. We make our decisions, and our decisions make us. That's it. At the University of Minnesota, researcher Dr. Klinch says that we make somewhere between 300 and 17,000 decisions a day. And when I first read that, I'm like, there is no way. But again, if you think about it, it just begins with the moment that you decide to get up. That's a decision. And then it just goes from there. All the decisions, what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat, just so many. And you'd be surprised. It can get there. It can get to 300 quickly. And, 17,000 seems like an incredible amount. But I just think about years I spent as a leader and how many meetings I had a day and how many people were asking me for different things and decisions that had to be made. It's a lot. We've got to be skilled at making wise decisions. That's the key word, wise. Not even good. I think wise is a better word. Because wisdom, is the application of knowledge. It's the practical application. So it's one thing to know, it's another thing to apply it. And good is just not a strong enough word. And great is too strong of a word, and it kind of overblows it. And I think the word wise is the word. If you will make wise decisions, your life will be eminently blessed in so many, many, many ways. Here's the thing. Little decisions can add up to have the impact of a big decision. And this is why we need to focus on it and spend this many episodes. You may think, gosh, Rick, 5 episodes on decision making. Yeah, we got to explore it from a lot of different angles because the little ones are important because they add up and then they become big and the impact becomes big. Here's another I'm throwing out a lot of these sort of quotables here today, these Twitter. I got to start tweeting some of these. How about this one? The greatest time waster is the time we spend undoing what we should not have done in the first place. I'm a big time guy, big guy on time, and I'll do some episodes on time at some point. Huge believer in time management, the value of time, and how important it is to use time wisely. The greatest time waster is the time we spend undoing what we shouldn't have done in the first place. Why do we have to undo it? Why shouldn't we have done it in the first place? Because it wasn't a good decision, wasn't a wise decision. We didn't make a wise decision. Now we have to turn around and undo it. The popular decision may be ineffective. Not necessarily, by the way, just because it's popular, but it may be. The right decision may take courage. It may take a lot of guts to make the right call. But in the end, making the right call, making the right decision, making the wise decision is the best way to go. And here's the thing, there can be quite a cost for making unwise decisions. That's the part of it that really needs to be pondered and considered is what's the cost of the unwise decisions? Because there's a cost. There's a cost. And again, we all know this. You can go back in your own life and you can just think, just should have gone to a different college or should have gone to college or should not have gone to college, should have pursued this career, should have taken that job, should have moved to that state, to that city, should have married that woman, should have not married that guy. I mean, on and on it goes. Big stuff. I'll tell you something that I think's, and I'll probably come back to this theme a few more times, but I just think it's one of the kind of the weird things about life is that some of the absolute most important decisions you'll ever make in your life, you make when you're young, when you're the least wise, when you have the least amount of wisdom. You have to make some super important decisions, again, about things like your career and marriage, relationships, where you might live. I mean, they're big decisions. And this is what makes this so important to spend some time in these episodes, is to try to help you to gain wisdom greater than, say, your present wisdom, your years of experience on this earth, because it's just so crucial. So crucial. I've spoken to young adults many times on this very subject, I've spoken at banquets, about just decisions that you make when you're graduating, just things that you've got to get right, or certainly do your absolute best to try to get right. Because if you get wrong, it's gonna mess up your life in so many different ways. So making decisions, wise decisions, it absolutely. I used to say this: decisions determine destiny. That's another one. Decisions determine destiny. Your destiny, it sounds like a big word, destiny, but it just means your sort of your ultimate future is determined by your decisions. That is absolutely a fact. So here's another fact. Decisions affect other people. Yeah. In other words, it isn't like, my decisions are my business. Well, not really, because they impact others. Our decisions can hurt people, or they can bless them. Yeah. You make a wise decision, and the people around you, if you're married, your spouse, if you have children, your kids, they're going to be the beneficiaries of your wise decisions. But you say, well, I'm not married to have kids. Okay, well, you think there's no one else in your life that you're not going to hurt by a bad decision or could bless by a good decision? I just have had enough conversations, including just being out to dinner last weekend with a couple who have children that are grown children, young adults, and talking with them. And this is what the wife said. She said, I'm only as happy as how my most unhappy child is doing. I mean, wow, whoa. I mean, that's a mother for you. And I've got a wife who's a mother, and she cares so much about her kids, even though they're not, kids anymore. They're not running around the house. But if you think your decisions don't impact, they do. And they impact your parents. They impact your siblings. And again, if they're good decisions, it's great. If they're bad decisions, wow. Decisions have a ripple effect. It's far beyond ourselves. It's just the proverbial toss the flat rock into the pond or the lake and watch it skip across. Toss the bigger one into the water and watch the ripples come and out directly out of that. I mean, there it is. I mean, it happens. The ripples are there, the skipping, the waves, the movement, whatever you want to call it, however you want to describe it, it is real. It happens. And in so many ways, our decisions are amazingly far-reaching. Even the generations, like decisions that are made that end up impacting generations. And if we had the time, we could go back and look at some of those, and you could see the truth and reality of that. It's pretty stunning to think about. And then if you're in a particular role, again, like a parent, but how about if you're a boss, if you're a leader, if you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you're like a government leader, politician, pastor, got a lot of, your decisions impact a lot of people. Lots of people are impacted. When people mess up, it really hurts and damages. And of course, when people make wise decisions, it really blesses and helps. I don't know if you know the name John Ashcroft, but just to tell you, he was the Attorney General of the United States. He was the governor of Missouri. He was senator in Missouri. And I happen to know his father. Not like we were buddies or anything, but we were friendly, knew each other. I don't know him. And when I got to know his father, he was an elderly man at that point, but what an unbelievably wise guy. I'll never forget the first time I spent time with him, which was, wow, a long time ago, years and years ago. I was just so taken by his wisdom, and I said, this is a guy that I've got to be around. So John Ashcroft actually wrote a book, Lessons from a Father to a Son. This being the elder Ashcroft, the one that I got to know. And so he tells a story about when he was 8 years old, and they were up in one of these little Cessna planes, because his dad was an amateur pilot amongst his many other. And by the way, this guy was like a president of a college and a pastor and a professor. I mean, he's just a super wise guy. So he says, why don't you take a shot at flying this plane? And, this wasn't, again, this was years ago. This was probably, 50 or 60 years ago. So it wasn't like there were all these gauges and controls and computerized equipment that you find today. It's a pretty Spartan, basic airplane, an expensive airplane. But there's a control stick, that's the thing. And so he said to his dad, well, what should I do? And his dad said, just grab the control stick and push it straight forward. So he's like 8 years old. So he takes the control stick and he pushes it straight forward, and immediately the plane goes straight into a like a dive bomb, just straight in. And the young John Ashcroft just absolutely, just completely scared out of his mind. And he let go of the control stick, and his dad grabbed over and pulled the plane back up, pulled the stick back up. And his dad laughed. He scared his son, but he laughed because he was trying to teach him something. And he said, here's what I want you to learn. Actions have consequences. And he said, I know it was kind of a terrifying way to learn it, but I just want you to know your decisions could imperil your future. The decisions you make, son, are enormously, enormously important. Now, this is when he's 8 years old, and this guy grows up to become governor, senator, and attorney general of the United States, and also attorney general of the state of Missouri. So, I mean, made a lot of wise decisions and had a pretty impressive life. And way back when he was a kid, his dad taught him this lesson through this incredible experience that he had. So it's so important to make wise decisions. There's such a cost when decisions turn out to be bad. And that's why it's just so crucial and vital that we make wise decisions. So here's another important point to remember. Decisions have lasting impact. Yeah, they do. The decisions we make can be complex, and they can have long-term consequences. And we know this is true because many times we say ourselves or others say this phrase, if only, if only. If only I had stayed in that marriage. If only I had not moved to that place. If only I had not left that company. If only I had not made that deal. If only I had not been so stubborn. If only I had not lost my temper. I mean, it's, yes, the if onlys. And the if onlys are said because of the long-term, lasting impact of decisions that we make. In fact, for some of us, and again, that's what these episodes are going to be about, is helping you to make wise decisions and to know how to do it, to identify it, how you do it, and all the aspects that go into it, is because we get afraid of making decisions for the fear of the possible consequences. Now, this is probably something I'll say a few more times, but it's good to say it right now. Not making a decision is a decision. It's just absolutely true. Not making a decision. There's no way to not make a decision. Not making a decision is a decision that you're not going to do anything. So you can't get around making decisions. It's simply a matter of wise decisions. So here's one of my all-time favorite stories, and it's about President Reagan. And just try to remember that President Reagan was pretty old when he became president, not as old as our last two presidents have been, which is record-breaking old, and then he's been, gone for a long time. So he lived a long time ago, and he lived back when there were cobblers, the guys that made shoes. And so when he was a kid, he went to have a pair of shoes made, and the cobbler said, do you want round toe or square toed shoes? And he couldn't decide which he wanted. So then the cobbler saw him several days later, and he said, so which is it going to be? You want a shoe that's round toed or square toed? And little Ronnie Reagan couldn't decide. And so then a week later, he goes to the cobbler and he says, okay, I made up my mind. And the cobbler said, you're too late. The shoes are already done. They're done. I have them for you. And so he handed little Ronnie Reagan his new shoes in a bag. And he took out his shoes, and one was round-toed and one was square-toed. Oh, man, that's hilarious. You couldn't get away with that today. But imagine putting those shoes on and walking around, and every day of your life, you're like, oh, man, I got to make decisions because if I don't make them, right? If you don't make them, they'll be made for you. That's the thing. You say, I'm not going to make a decision. And then, while you're waiting, decisions do get made. And the decision not to make a decision ended up costing you in some way, shape, or form. So it's just hugely important to make wise decisions. And you just really have to focus on that. Over these next episodes, we're going to really just talk more about how to make wise decisions and the best decisions and what all that goes into that and all the resources that you have and understanding decision-making styles, kind of understanding your natural bent in making decisions. But again, the goal is really to come out of this, and I hope you'll listen to every episode, is to come out of this being someone who can make wise decisions, knows how to make the kinds of decisions that will really end up blessing your life and blessing the lives of those that you love and care about, so that your life can be so much better, and that you won't live with the if-onlys and you won't look back with regret, but that you'll look back and you say, wow, I'm making better decisions now. And those better decisions are making my life better in so many, many ways. That's my goal for this theme of decision making in these episodes, beginning with this one and going forward here, to just really give you some great solid information, some just gold advice that you can take and use so that your decisions will be better decisions, and you'll end up living closer to fulfilling your potential for your life and having the kind of happiness and success that I know God wants for you. So stay tuned. Great having with you with us on the show today. Look forward to next week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.